Okay, so this deal's been in the news for a couple years, I guess. Should Alec Baldwin be in legal trouble for the accidental shooting on the set of the movie Rust? And I'm surprised at how the pro-gun people, the so-called, I guess in some cases right-wing pro-gun people, not all of them are right-wing, some of them are left-wing, but they're pro-gun people on the internet who are talking about it. I'm surprised at how how so many of them, boy, they really want Alec Baldwin to go to prison for an accident. I'm really surprised at that. But a lot of these people they're real quick to throw other people in jail. They don't want them thrown in jail. My feeling from the start has been pretty much the opposite. I don't think Alec Baldwin should be in legal trouble as I sit here knowing what I think I know happened. Now, I wasn't there. Not many people were. So I'm weighing in on something I wasn't a part of. One of the flaws in our so-called justice system, the court system, besides corrupt cops and corrupt prosecutors and corrupt judges and dummies on juries and all this kind of thing that the lawmakers never seem to want to fix, other than those flaws, is the weird thing that we're going to ask people who weren't there to decide what happened. That on itself is weird. I get that that's sort of how you have to do it, maybe, but again, a massive flaw, and that's why a lot of innocent people are in prison. Corrupt cops, corrupt judges, corrupt lawyers, corrupt prosecutors, lying witnesses, phony lying expert witnesses, making up stupid stuff, slanted people on juries who lean this way and that way on different issues, people on juries who they might be horrible people, you don't know. There's no way to find out. And then they just sit there and send an innocent guy to prison. But anyways, here's why I say, as far as what I know, what I think I know, Alec Baldwin should not be in legal trouble. And I'm not a big fan of Alec Baldwin. I don't think most of our social, political stuff would line up, and he's done stuff in movies I don't like. I think the only thing we might have in common is he's kind of a animal rights guy a little bit. I like that, but I don't know how far he goes with it. So let me explain my point of view. Yes, when you are on a movie set and you have blank guns or dummy bullets, blank bullets, bullets that make noise but they don't fire a bullet, or you have dummies that just look like something but they don't fire at all, you should check and double check and triple check and check before each scene, and everything should be really tight, really strict, locked up, ammo, blanks, the stuff, checked and rechecked. And before you do a scene, you should take, especially if you're using a revolver like he was, you should go, okay, hey, this is loaded with blanks or this is loaded with dummies, let's say. So we can see them on camera in the gun, but they don't go off. Okay, what you do is you go outside and you either have a barrel to shoot into with water, or if you just don't have the equipment, you find a mud hole and you have people gather around and you dry fire that gun with all those bullets in it and have several people do it pointing at that mud hole to check over and over again that those are actually dud bullets, dummy bullets. I guess that was not done. That should be done. Now, Alec's not a gun guy from what I understand. He's an anti-gun guy. I assume that means he doesn't have guns, although a lot of anti-gun Hollywood people have guns, and a lot of cops who are anti-gun have guns. So there are people like that. But Alec is a guy who's been in the business of acting for 30 years, maybe more, and he's handled guns. He should have picked up on some stuff. Now, they did hire somebody. There's one or two people whose job it was to check things. Well, I guess that didn't work out. Things weren't going good, and some live bullets ended up in the gun, and it should not have happened, and the gun should have been checked. Yes. But Alec is an actor, and if you hand Alec a prop from the prop department or the stunt people or the armor, and they go, okay, here it is, you're good to go. This is a fake knife, or it's a fake baseball bat. You know, it's made of foam, but it's, you know, it looks real, but it's not a real actual bat. Or it's, okay, here's a gun, and it's loaded with dummies. Okay. He's an actor. He's going to take your word. He was probably brought on as a producer in order to get funding for the movie, because it's a low-budget movie. They want to attach names, studios, and whoever. They'll say, look, you get me some bigger names on this, we'll put some money into it, or whatever it is. So that's how the business goes. They want to get big names in there as producers or actors or directors. Alec should have, everyone should have been checking those guns relentlessly, the dummy rounds, and nailing things down. I think there's a lot of trouble with his armor. There's talk about maybe she was doing some dope or wasn't sober all the time or something weird going on. I don't know. It's what I've heard. That's why you should check and recheck in case something slips through. That was not done. To some extent, it's never been Alec's job to do that. He's an actor. The whole point about him saying he didn't pull the trigger, and then people go, oh no, the gun, you had to pull the trigger. I really don't care. He was handed a gun that was supposedly checked by two people and said, here they are. It's a cold gun. In other words, these are the dummy bullets for the scene. And then he's sitting there, and the female camera operator, she's saying, okay, look this way, look up, down, move the gun, da-da-da, getting her camera set for this little scene where he's going to pull out the gun, and I don't know if he's going to fire it or just pull it out and aim it. I owned once upon a time a revolver, a Ruger 3-screw Blackhawk, that before I ever got it, somebody had gotten in there and ground around and filed and smoothed things, and the trigger was dangerously light, and it went off on me when I did not want it to. I wasn't handling the gun as safe as I should have been, but I'm telling you, when you pull the hammer back, literally, if you touched the trigger lightly, it would go off. It was an unsafe gun, and I got it fixed, and then I sold it to somebody. So I got brand new parts put in it, and there it is. But I've also heard of situations, very rare, where with a modern round you can have a round, a hang fire where the firing pin hits the bullet, the primer, and it doesn't go off right away. And it might go off sometime later, like in some rare cases, minutes later, but that's very rare. The whole debating about whether the gun was this or that, or whether he did pull the trigger, or he pulled the hammer back, then he let off the hammer, and it, instead of staying back, it flew forward. The gun, he's saying maybe something went wrong with it, but he didn't pull the trigger. In the pictures I've seen, if they're from that accident, you can see his finger is in the trigger guard. Now, I don't know if those are pictures from that moment or not. You can have your finger in the trigger guard without pulling the trigger, but to me, it doesn't matter. The gun, whether it was working or wasn't, or malfunctioned or whatever it was, doesn't matter to me. He is an actor who was handed a gun, and he was told it's a cold gun, it's safe. And people will say, well, you shouldn't point a gun at somebody. Yeah, but he's on a movie set. And yeah, you can do scenes without pointing at the other actor or the director. You can do that. And you should, especially if you're using blanks and they're going off, because blanks do spit out some stuff that could hurt you at some distance. But dummy rounds don't go off at all. If the primer's dead and there's no powder, there's nothing to go off. The firing pin can hit the primer all day long. If there even has a primer, or the primer's dead from having oil put on it or whatever it is, and it won't go off. It's a dummy round. So I'm disappointed to see so many pro-gun people want to throw Alec Baldwin in prison, which is probably because they don't like him, because he's an anti-gun guy or left-wing or whatever it is. He votes for Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or whatever. Okay. So let me reference this. Brandon Lee, they were making a movie in 1993. He was 28 years old. And the scene was that several actors were to fire guns at him, his character, and they were supposed to be loaded with blanks or whatever. And one of them had a situation where a bullet or got stuck in the barrel, I think, and then it was later loaded with a blank, which then turned that bullet into an actual flying bullet. And the actor who had fired that gun, Michael Massey, it killed Brandon Lee. Now, should Michael Massey, the actor, have checked that gun? Should everybody else checked it? He's an actor. He's handed a gun. It's a prop. Yeah, it's a working gun, but it's on a movie set. It's filled with blanks or dummies or whatever, and here you go. Yeah, it'd be great if everybody checked and triple checked everything. Michael Massey, he died not too many years ago. I think on October 20. And the Alec Baldwin shooting accident happened on October 21, a few years later. Just an interesting thing. But anyways, if you think Alec Baldwin should be going to prison, then I have to assume you would think that Michael Massey should have went to prison for pulling the trigger on the gun that killed Brandon Lee. Now, somebody, some way or another, did not check everything properly on the Brandon Lee movie, and there was a bullet stuck in the barrel, then it was loaded with a blank. I think that's how it happened. And then that blank had enough pressure to fire that bullet out to some velocity that ended up killing Brandon Lee. So somebody, somewhere, or two or three people or something, something was overlooked. And somebody died because of it. Should somebody have went to prison? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. And I don't think Alec Baldwin should be in jeopardy of going to prison. You could say he could get sued, and since he's probably got a bunch of money, he ends up giving a bunch of money to somebody because he was a producer. And to some extent, the producer is a boss there, right? Now, another interesting thing is the director. If Alec Baldwin is in trouble because he's a producer, then why wouldn't the director who got shot through the shoulder, why wouldn't he be in legal trouble? Just because he got shot with that bullet, why would that make him not be in legal trouble? He should have been checking everything right. Maybe even more so than Alec Baldwin. He's the director. I don't hear anybody talking about legal charges being brought against him. Why not? And I'm not saying he should be. I'm just pointing out there's some stupid stuff going on here. If somebody does something stupidly reckless, yeah, you don't want them to just walk away if somebody died. I get that. But again, you have the Brandon Lee death from some things getting overlooked, and then you have some things getting overlooked here, I suppose, unless it was something sabotaged intentional, like some have said, like how did these live rounds end up on that set in the first place? Did somebody sabotage something? Well, now if that's the case, if somebody purposely brought live rounds and mixed them in with the dummies, knowing this could be a dangerous thing, well, now that person could be going to prison because that is intentionally doing something very dangerous, knowing somebody could get hurt or killed. That would be like if you were doing a stunt in a movie and somebody said, here's the fake glass wine bottle that you're going to hit the person in the head with, and they knowingly switch it with a real one, and then the actor swings it, hits the guy, and then he dies or is laid up in a hospital for 20 years. That would be an act that would be, I think, prosecuted because you intentionally switched something knowing that it was not the safer stunt prop. So that's a whole deal right there. Figuring out how those live rounds got on that set is really the key. It's got nothing to do with the gun and how or why it went off. I don't think it's got anything to do with that. The gun was probably in good working order. I haven't heard any thoughts about the people who looked at it said, oh, it was this or that, ground or on or polished around. How those live rounds got there. How did those live rounds get in the gun? Was it on purpose? Or was it just a really overlooked thing where a live box of shells somehow got mixed in with the dummy rounds? How in the world? And then, good safety rules would have caught that. If you'd have go out and dry fire it, that's true. They would have probably went off then in the mud hole instead of in the scene. But again, I don't think Alec Baldwin should be in legal trouble. He could get sued for some money because he was a producer, and he should have been turning the screws on safety a little more if that's the producer's job. But he, I guess, did hire people to look after safety. But there should be checks and double checks to catch things that like this that could happen, or to catch an act of sabotage if that's possible. And it is possible. People do all kind of crazy shit. People do all kind of sadistic crap. So yeah, I don't think Alec Baldwin, knowing what I think I know as I sit here now on January 22, 2024, I don't think, and I've never thought since this whole thing happened, that he was automatically at fault or in legal trouble. I wish he had checked that gun, those bullets, dry fired it in a mud hole, and then went in and sat down to do his scene. That would have probably been the best thing. And if you go out there in the mud hole, if somebody hands you a gun and they say it's a cold gun, and you go out and say, okay, well, we're going to check it, we're going to check these dummy rounds, and you go out there and you fire that working gun into a mud hole and it goes off, then you shut everything down. You shut down the whole production for days or weeks or whatever, and you figure out who and what and how in the world did those live rounds get thought to be dummy rounds. What is going on here? In that case, you might call the cops then and go, hey, somebody handed me a gun, said it was filled with dummy rounds, and I went out and I fired 2 of them in a mud hole, and they went off. They're real bullets. Somebody's doing something, either accidentally on purpose, but something's going on here, and we are shutting this off because we might have a person on our crew or supplier who is intentionally doing something. It's like some asshole putting some poison in Halloween candy or something. You're like, okay, well, the kid that eats this one, he's going to have a bad time. I mean, people do crazy, sadistic shit like that all the time. So at that point, you would shut it down and look and find out and fire people and get new people or whatever and restart that movie weeks or months later. So that's my view on it. These prosecutors, these courts are so stupid that they're going to say, okay, you're charged, okay, we drop it. Oh no, wait, you're charged again. Uh, so stupid. I don't like to see people get a free pass because they're rich or famous. Cops who are not rich or famous get a free pass all the time. So many cops have shot people, wounded people, killed people, and gotten away with it. Gotten away with murder or attempted murder in this country over the last 50 years. Nobody's riled up about that. I don't see the gun people on the internet getting riled up about that. But they don't like Alec because he's a left-wing guy or an anti-gun guy. If he was a gun guy in real life, he might be doing some of the things I said and really been checking, and then this would have been avoided. But as him just being an actor or even a producer, things got out of hand. But he's worked on a lot of movies where things didn't get out of hand. So he's probably like, hey, people are here. I hired people. They're checking things. And sometimes you get people that ain't really got things nailed down, and stuff like this can get through. It can happen on a construction site with power tools, safety on construction sites, or in a factory, or a mill, or a plant, or on a farm. Yeah, these things happen. And there'd been a lot of rich people who owned dangerous factories, and people got killed. But that rich guy, he didn't go to prison.